We're now about to go live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So are we all back to square one after a long holiday weekend?
Yeah, kind
Sort
of. We'll hit the ground running yesterday, so, usual day.
Okay, sounds good. Did
I
you
got
have
to enjoy a day off.
You did? Okay.
Monday. I
There
had
you go.
Monday off.
Perfect.
So, for everything.
Well, it's so funny because when we used to, in my former life, when I was director of the Council on Aging, I used to feel like if I could get one day of like a long weekend off, that was, that was a win for me. So I can understand that. So were you up at Mount Holyoke over the weekend?
Yeah, it was move-in weekend because they
Yeah.
start this today, I think, is the first day of classes for them.
Okay.
They're starting late, so it was crazy, and I was kind of by myself both day shifts. When
Yeah.
everybody was coming,
Yeah.
I was by myself, and usually they try to schedule two people, but
Yeah.
it wasn't happening.
Yeah. I mean,
I stayed in the afternoon after 3 o'clock. Both days I worked 7 to 7, so to help
Yeah.
the night guy.
Yeah. It's a long shift. What kind of calls do you get on moving in weekend? Like what?
Everybody
what kind
forgets their
happens?
one card. Some people come in before the key. They don't do the key distribution long enough.
Okay.
Like they close it down too early, and people
Yeah.
come in late or whatever. And then people forget their one card ID, so they can't get in their building and they can't get into their room. And then they're like, well, you can come print out a new one card. And they're like, well, you just let me in and then I'll come get it later. And 5 days later, they get it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like not 80 to 90% of the people are absolutely prepared to move to be in college.
Yep.
And then there's 10 to 15% that are just not.
Yeah. Yep.
I had a lady call me want to get rid of a refrigerator.
Okay.
And I said, well, I really don't. I said, I'm just curious as to why you're getting rid of a refrigerator at the beginning of a semester.
Right.
And she goes, well, when my daughter put it into storage, she didn't clean it out. So it's full of flies and maggots, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And so my reaction to this is my brain working and not my mouth.
Go ahead.
My brain working is I would have gone down to the Dollar General, got a whole bunch of cleaning supplies with bleach, and made my daughter clean it out, whether I was going to keep it or not.
Yep.
Because then she would never put food into. It just boggles my mind that somebody could put a refrigerator into storage with food still in it.
Yeah.
I can understand being icy or something and the ice melting. I get that. And it becoming moldy because of that. But leaving food in there and then putting it away.
Well, what's scary to me is that this is somebody who clearly at least has already completed 1 year of college
Yeah.
at a very good elite school.
Correct.
So not a whole lot of common sense going on there.
Correct.
But what your suggestion, Pete, is that in parenting terms is called logical consequences. And I
Yeah.
remember reading about logical consequences when I was a new parent, and I thought, what a great concept.
Yeah.
Like, what a great idea. So you're not punishing for the sake of punishing. Well, you're not punishing at all. It's just like, these are the
No,
logical consequences. You did this. This is what's left. Now you clean up your own mess.
Well, and how many people,
You
I
gotta
mean,
fix
somebody
it.
said, oh, well, dorm fridges are really cheap. And I'm like, how many people can afford paying for an $80,000 a year college? Because that's what it costs.
Right.
And then paying for a fridge on top of that. Well, yes, there's a lot of people that go there that can afford that. But that's not even the point.
No, it's not the point.
It's like I would make the child clean that fridge first and then throw it away.
Yeah. And then decide what you want to do with it. I mean, the reality is they may clean the fridge and say, well, I really need a fridge anyway. And now this is
I
clean
think
and it's,
it was
whatever.
evident to me that they were going to buy a new one.
Okay. All right.
They just wanted to know where to dump the old one.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it.
And I don't think the thought process ever crossed their mind to make the child clean that.
well,
Or
here's
the young adult.
Here you go, Pete. Here's a concept for you. And in fact, Grace, for whatever reason, Grace and Gary and I just had this conversation not long ago. So when Grace was, I want to say, a sophomore in high school, she wanted to have some of her friends stay over, and the the party kind of got, and it was fine. She had she had invited some of the freshmen that were on, I don't know, the soccer team or whoever she played with. This was kind of at the beginning of the school year.
Yep.
Long story short, there were some others who kind of decided they invited themselves.
Right.
And I mean, Gary and I were home. It wasn't like a rager or anything like that. But anyway, Grace, decided that she wanted these other students who were a year older than her to stay over too. Also, people she had done sports with when she was a freshman. She was a sophomore.
So they're
this
known
year.
quantities.
Yeah, they were known quantities. And I said to her, are you sure? Because I don't think this is such a great idea. Well, the long and the short of it was they got into our liquor cabinet, okay? The older kids instigated this, the juniors, because Grace is now a sophomore. So she got a couple sophomore friends and more freshmen. The juniors kind of crashed the party. They decided, so they get into the liquor cabinet. So one of them gets, raging sick, right? And here's the justice behind this. So first of all, Grace comes to me the next morning and she said, so-and-so was up, throwing up all night and yada, yada, yada. I said, well, because they were down in the basement. We have a finished basement. I said, well, where did this occur? Well, in the bathroom. I said, well, was she throwing up in the toilet? Yep. I said, okay, that's fine. And she said, Grace said to me, it's a mess. And I said, well, your party, your friend, you're cleaning it up.
Correct.
And Grace was like, Mom, it's disgusting. I said, exactly. Yeah. And I said, you should have monitored your friend, or you should have come to Dad and me to call her parents to say, come pick up your daughter, whatever. I said, you didn't do any of that. It's your responsibility. Clean it up. The toilet brush is there. The rag is there. So we made her do that. On the kids' end, the girl who got sick, her family was scheduled to go to Six Flags that day. And guess what? Her mother figured logical consequences. This is a family outing. You're coming. And you can imagine how this...
How dehydrated.
Oh, and how just awful she felt. I mean,
right.
She was so hungover. And her mother said, well, you know what? You are the example to your younger brothers and sisters. Have fun. We're going to Six Flags. So there you go.
Yep.
And, Grace said to me, we were talking about this not that long ago, and I can't remember what brought it up, but Grace said, oh, Mom, I can't believe you made me do that. She goes, it was so disgusting. I said, but now you are a parent, so now you do understand why I made you do it. She never had another one like that again.
Sure, yeah.
Didn't happen again because I said, you are, they're your friends. Just like if I had guests at my house for dinner or whatever, if something happened, I'm responsible.
Yep.
So... logical consequences. I agree with you, Pete. Clean out the refrigerator and then decide what you're going to do with it.
Right. Why didn't this? It just blows my mind that this doesn't even come up for people anymore.
Right. Yeah. Like this wasn't even.
We become such a disposable society that thought process doesn't enter in.
Exactly. My thought, initially was, we're all out there trying to clean up the environment and save the planet and all this other stuff. Well, if the refrigerator is actually in working order and, a good refrigerator, well, maybe somebody else could use it after you clean it up. And hey, it's like I could use a, free refrigerator.
Right.
Sure, why
not? The first thought process for both the child and the parent was just to toss it.
Yeah, throw it out. How do we get rid of it? How do we get rid of it and just clean up the mess and, we're done. That took 30
forget about
seconds.
the mess. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, there's no place that I know of on campus to dump it.
Yeah.
And South Hadley, I think, has a town dump, and they're not open on a Sunday.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And she sounded completely disappointed or almost frustrated. And I'm like,
it's like, hello.
That's not really our problem.
I was just going to say, good Lord, Pete. I mean,
the calls I get in public safety are crazy.
Oh, I bet you could write a book.
Crazy.
I bet you could write a book. You could do a sitcom.
Crazy.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
I just printed your one card, and 34 minutes later, you're calling me for a lockout because you left your one card in your room.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Really? Well, this is interesting.
And in some campuses, the public safety doesn't do lockouts. Like, it has to be an RA that does it. If you can't find your RA, you're sitting in the lobby waiting.
And, waiting for somebody to open a door for you.
We're as far as I can tell, we're very lenient on that.
Yes. Yeah.
Very lenient.
Sounds like it.
And then the other one is they have the gall to call you. Well, it's been 10 minutes. Where are you?
Oh, do you love that?
I'm like, I have one officer for a campus of 2,000 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have to wait.
Exactly.
Well, my roommate's waiting. We have to go to the store. I said, well, then, you have to wait.
You know,
I almost
planning.
you almost want to say, then you shouldn't have locked yourself out of your room.
Exactly.
Then you'd be on your way.
You know, be more focused, pay more attention.
But then they would complain to the Res Life staff, and you'd be fired.
Yeah.
Me, meaning
Right.
me, be fired.
Right. It's like your
at
failure to plan should not be my emergency.
correct.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you. So, great. My daughter, Grace, of course, we know Grace is in school right now. So, she's back to HCC. She's finished. This is her last year for her vet tech program.
Yep.
So, she has animal pharmacology this semester, which apparently is a bear of a course. But she loves the professor teaching it. She's had Dr. Hatch. I feel like I know Dr. Hatch. I think that Dr. Hatch knew Grace was pregnant before we did, because she had Dr. Hatch for animal anatomy and physiology, and they were dissecting dead cats when Grace was in her first trimester. So needless to say, there was a lot of running out of Dr. Hatch's class to go get, for morning sickness. Plus, it was an 8:00 class. But anyway, I digress. So she has Dr. Hatch for pharmacology. So Grace comes downstairs. So school started yesterday. It was Tuesday. Grace came downstairs Monday morning, and she said, well, I went online because I thought, I really need to look over the syllabus, start planning, really get back in the mode and everything. Well, on the syllabus, Grace said Dr. Hatch already gave them an assignment. And the assignment was something that was very simple, but he put right on the syllabus. He said, and on the assignment, once she logged in to get the assignment, basically it was, pretty simple. But she said on the bottom, Dr. Hatch said, I just want to see how many students checked out the syllabus before class started, before we actually got in there. And Grace said, I don't remember how much it was worth. I mean, it's worth points. It's like not a freebie. So one of the questions that Dr. Hatch asked on the quiz was, what particular animal medication would you like to learn more about, so that I make sure that I cover it this semester? So Grace, wrote and told him, and he said, and so he wrote back to her right away, and he said, Grace, he said, I didn't have that one on my list of meds to cover. And Grace wrote back to him and said, I'm really surprised because we use that. She works at VCA over here by the high school. And Grace said, we use that particular medication, a fair amount. So he said, well, great. I'll definitely make sure that I include it this semester. So Grace comes downstairs, like Monday night. She goes, all right, I'm starting out the semester. I already have a 100 on my first assignment for Dr. Hatch.
And I went up the teacher.
But it was fun. Well, no, I mean, it was a good question for him.
Right.
I love that he said, I want to make sure that if, because a lot of the students are working or they've done internships or whatever, it's like, I want to make sure that I'm covering things that are relevant to each of you. And there are only 7 students in the class. But Grace said to me, and I haven't seen her to talk to her and ask her what happened. She goes, I'm curious to know how many students opened up the syllabus before, the class to see where we stand. So anyway, all good stuff. We're just trying to crank out students that are,
like I said, most of them
common sense, and
most of them are.
Yeah.
And this is true. This is why people wonder why police officers and dispatchers and stuff are like grumpy.
Yeah.
Because we deal with the bottom 10%.
Right, exactly.
All
and that's exactly it. And, those are the ones that you end up talking about. The 80 to 90% that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're responsible adults. We don't have to talk about them. But the other ones, it's like, oh, my gosh, get a grip,
Yes.
Oh, boy. All right.
But it does come out with some funny stories because they're once they settle in for the semester, most of them are fine.
Yeah.
You get some chronic people who just literally I don't know how you put on your shoes in the morning.
I know. I used to have students like that. I mean, I was teaching at Springfield College, we've all had them. My favorite students in the world to teach were, at that time, we called them non-traditional students. And most of them were older students, who had families. A lot of them were married. And the reason that I loved teaching them was almost without a doubt, every single one of them was putting themselves through school.
Yeah.
And when you are the one paying that paycheck, you're paying that check to the school, you're making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's and absolutely getting the most out of this experience, because it's not anything that's handed to you. You're working your butt off for it.
Mike Rowe said, he said it on his Facebook page, notice there's no protests at ag schools.
Yes.
Or technical colleges.
They don't have
or
time.
Community colleges.
Yeah, they don't have time.
Because they need value for their education.
Right.
They don't have time yet. They don't have time to waste protesting.
Exactly. It's like, listen, I got classes to take. I have exams to, take. I've got certificates to get. And, it is a different ball game. And, yeah.
Oh, and I really appreciate when a student gives you a thank you when you print them a new one card or something like that. Oh, I forgot my one card at home, or
yep.
It was on my dresser and I was running around and I completely forgot it. It's like,
and that happens.
It doesn't cost them anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so it's appreciative when you get a thank you, when you give them their card.
Absolutely. And because you are going to have students that say, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I know exactly where it is. And then I got sidetracked, and thank you so much. I appreciate you helping me out on this one.
Yep.
That's a whole different story than the, hey, where are you? It's been 10 minutes,
Right.
I mean,
especially because over the weekend, there's no, during the week, they can go to the library called LITS, the information technology, and get a new card printed during the week. Mm-hmm. Over the weekend, it's just me.
Yeah.
It's literally just
here
me.
I am. So be kind.
Yeah.
Because it's me and your dorm,
Right.
So, yeah, if you want to get in, you got to go through me. All right. Well, listen, it is 6:17. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So we are into September. We're in the first, this is the first Wednesday of September. So we need to do some September songs. We're back to school. So the first one that we're going to do is by The Happenings, called See You in September. We'll be back.
I'll be alone each and every night. While you're away, don't forget to write. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. See you in September. See you when the summer's through. Here we are, baby, goodbye. Saying goodbye at the station. Baby, goodbye. Summer vacation is taking you away. Have a good time, but remember there is danger in the summer moon above. Will I see you in September, or lose you to a summer love? Counting the hours and the minutes too. Bye, baby, goodbye. Bye, baby, goodbye. Bye, baby, goodbye. Bye, baby, goodbye. Have a good time, but remember there is danger in the summer moon above. Will I see you in September, or lose you to a summer love? While you're away, don't forget to write. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So September 4th, we have a few birthdays to cover today. It is the birthday of Merrill Bubba Knight, rhythm and blues singer, born on this day in 1942 in Atlanta, Georgia. He's 82 years old today. So Knight's mother, Elizabeth Woods Knight, was a nurse's aide, and his father, Merrill Knight Sr., was a restaurant supervisor. Knight's parents were also singers in the Wings Over Jordan Gospel Choir. In 1952, at the young age of 10, Bubba Knight and his sisters, Gladys Knight and Brenda Knight, and cousins William and Eleanor, formed the musical group The Pips. The Pips released their hit single, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, in 1967. Hits that followed included The Nitty Gritty, Friendship Train, If I Were Your Woman, I Don't Want to Do Wrong, and the 1973 Grammy Award-winning Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye. In 1973, the Pips left Motown and signed with Buddha Records. Their first album with Buddha was Imagination, which would become their best-selling album. Imagination included the 1974 Grammy-winning song Midnight Train to Georgia. Gladys Knight and the Pips continued to produce hits until 1989, when Gladys decided to leave the group. So a happy 82nd birthday to Merrill Bubba Knight, brother of Gladys Knight. It is also the birthday, and I just love him, and I know you did too, Pete, of the late Paul Harvey, conservative talk radio pioneer, born on this date in 1918 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I didn't realize Paul Harvey lived to age 90. He died February 28th, 2009, at the age of 90. To some people, Paul Harvey was a far-right conservative, a brother in arms to the John Birch Society, Billy Graham, William F. Buckley, and other icons of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. But Paul Harvey was also a delightful history teacher with a velvety voice that turned the news into narrative and entertainment each week on his famous segment, The Rest of the Story. For more than 3 decades, from the 1970s to his death in 2009, Harvey would address his millions of listeners 6 days a week, giving them the backstory to people, things, and events both famous and not so known. Harvey briefly served in World War II. He made his way to Chicago, where he took up broadcasting on ABC, and he didn't leave the airways for years. He quickly made his name by explaining the mysteries of history and commenting, sometimes with extreme fervor, on the decline of American moralism. And how many know that Harvey earned a permanent spot in the history textbooks when he coined the phrase Reaganomics? I didn't realize that Paul Harvey had coined that phrase.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's often not enough to have the right voice, stories, and supporting team. What every storytelling program needs is an investor. And among Harvey's truest gifts was his ability to keep sponsors. Harvey's voice, transitioning seamlessly from a story to commentary to a carefully placed advertisement, became a kind of brand kingmaker. People trusted what he was telling, and so they trusted what he was selling. Harvey's success in bringing backstories and history to life arguably paved the way for many American documentary programs. He was a master at connecting yesterday to the present and to tomorrow. He was an early proponent of drawing insight from the past in order to do better in the future. So happy birthday to the late Paul Harvey.
Now you know the rest of the story.
I love that. When Gary was in chiropractic school, we were living out in Davenport, Iowa, and I used to listen to Paul Harvey. Had a segment on every morning on my way to work.
Paul Harvey News and Comment.
Yes, and it was perfectly positioned so that I heard it on my way in. I only had about a 10 or 15 minute drive.
That's all it was. It was 13 minutes.
Exactly. It was very short. But on every Friday, he would start his broadcast with, "Good morning, Americans. It's Friday."
Yep.
And I just love that. And I can remember like every Friday walking into work and I would throw open the door. I was working in a community, continuing care retirement community at the time. And it'd be like, "Good morning, Americans. It's Friday." And the staff would be like, she was listening to Paul Harvey on the way in. And most of them were nurses who had been on shift for a couple hours before I got there. But he was great.
I ran Paul when I worked at HYN. That's how I came across it. I ran Paul Harvey.
Oh,
we ran it at noon every day.
Okay.
Because you'd record it in the morning on the ABC radio network, and then you'd run it at noon.
Okay.
And so the noon hour would start with Paul Harvey every day. And then it would lead into the whatever noon show. If there was a live show, it would be the noon show. But that first 12 minutes would be Paul Harvey.
Yeah. I was always fascinated with, he was a great storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate great storytellers.
You know the story behind the rest of the story, Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe's continued the tradition of Paul Harvey.
I know that because you had mentioned that on air before.
Right. And so he had done like about 50 or 60 of them, and there was a call at the office at Mike Rowe Works saying, "Paul Harvey Jr. wants to talk to you." And he went, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm going to get sued, right?
Like, that's what I would have thought. It's
dude's
like,
going to sue me. So
yeah.
he called him back, and he said he had a great conversation, and Paul Harvey's son, Paul Harvey Jr., was tickled pink because I think Paul Harvey Jr. tried to continue the tradition for a while.
Uh-huh.
And then it got too much for him, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he said he was tickled pink that you were carrying on my father's tradition.
Nice.
And then he wrote him a check for like 15 or 20 grand to the Mike Rowe Works Foundation.
Nice.
And he was like, I'm just so happy that you've carried on that tradition. And he goes, honestly, I'm doing it as an homage to your dad. He goes, that's where I started hearing it, and I started getting curious about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I started finding out those stories too and writing the way I heard it.
Yep. Well, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've used that expression with, and I do it in emails all the time. Like I'll kind of give a backstory, and then at the end I'll put, and now you know the rest of the story. So happy birthday to the late Paul Harvey. I miss you. I so enjoyed your commentary, and they're right. He would just segue in from kind of a story, news to a story to a commercial.
Maybe I'll find one of those some Monday morning we can run it for a second.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun to do. All right. It is also the birthday of the late John McCarthy. John McCarthy was a computer scientist born on this day in 1927 in Boston. He died at the age of 84, October 24th, 2011. But John McCarthy was an American, and I thought this was really appropriate for what's happening in today's world right now. John McCarthy was an American computer scientist and cognitive scientist who made seminal contributions to the development of artificial intelligence, AI, which we're hearing about every single day. I mean, every day, as an academic discipline. And I had to look back because I thought, that can't be right. He was born in 1927, in artificial intelligence, but he is widely regarded as one of the founding fathers of AI, having coined the term artificial intelligence in 1955. And organized the Dartmouth Conference in 1956, which marked the formal beginning of AI research. McCarthy's most significant contributions to AI include his development of the Lisp programming language in 1958, which became the primary programming language for artificial intelligence research, and it is still used today. He also introduced the concept of time sharing, a method that allows multiple users to share computing resources simultaneously, which was a major breakthrough in the early days of computing. Throughout his career, John McCarthy was a leading figure in AI research and a key advocate for the field. He founded the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, or SAIL, I love that, in 1963, and received numerous accolades for his work. So, happy birthday to the late John McCarthy. We can claim him as our own. He was born here in Boston, Massachusetts, and kind of one of the founding fathers of artificial intelligence, which, I can't turn on the news now without hearing something about AI and artificial intelligence. And, there's just so much to it and, pros and cons. It's amazing. It's an amazing field.
Yep.
All right. It is 6:30. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. So continuing our theme, it is September. We're welcoming September. I can't do it without playing one of my husband's favorites. So first of all, he's an Earth, Wind, and Fire fan, so he loves the group Earth, Wind, and Fire, and this is their song, September. So rock on.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news. We do not have all that much counter space in our kitchen, but we had to make room for this. Have you seen the new Denny Fresh Lock? True Value has them. This is a vacuum sealer for leftover food or for freezing food, and that is just the beginning. The Denny, D-E-N-I, Fresh Lock, creates a plastic bag just the right size for anything, and then, now wait a minute, it creates the plastic bag and then sucks the air out, and then vacuum seals the bag. So you can use it to protect silver that you're not using, and the silver will never tarnish. You can use the Denny Fresh Lock for toiletries when you travel, so even liquids can't spill, for sheltering photographs. However, if you just use it for buying food in larger quantities and sealing and storing that food in the freezer, it'll save the average family dollars per day. True Value promises.
Right off the
that you
beginning
can
with an
freeze
ad.
beef in a Denny bag and it'll stay fresh for a year. For all of the purposes for which you've been using plastic bags, now you can make your own bags, and these bags seal the contents in a vacuum. The Denny Fresh Lock at True Value is True Value.
He was great.
Unfinished business. Yesterday we talked about the pledge, the Lead or Leave campaign pledge. It says, if you elect me to Congress, I'll cut the federal budget deficit in half by 1996, or I will not seek re-election. Lead or Leave. This morning, the first Democrat signed the pledge. Maryland's Tom McMillan. Next. Unemployment. Now,
1992.
Yeah. And speaking of,
Clinton era.
yeah, speaking of elections, Pete, so, yesterday,
Nothing ever changes.
yesterday was an election day.
Nothing ever changes. Yeah, Republican primary. It's
Yes.
like neither candidate was all that great.
Yes, unfortunately, we still had to have, we were, the senior center was a polling place. So, I'm a little
Dribs and drabs.
I'm a little sleepy this morning. Well, I volunteered for the graveyard shift because, in the old days, I can't believe I used to do this because not that long ago, only, within the last year or so, the polls open at 7. I used to have to get there at 6 o'clock to unlock the doors for all of the, poll workers and everything.
Yep.
And then stay until they were done. And, now it is unbelievable, Pete. I said to Mike Squindo, the director, I said, all right, let's figure out how we're going to do this. So now Alex Hibbert, our building maintenance custodian, comes in. Because he normally gets there at 7 anyway. So he comes in early.
Right,
And then
so
he
you
can
do
leave
it in
early. You
shifts.
do it in shifts. Then Mike had, the tall guy had the sort of the day shift. I had a Zoom meeting anyway scheduled last night, and it's a Google Meet, and for whatever reason my home computer doesn't like Google Meet that much. So I said to Mike, I'm going to be here anyway in my office for that. So I'll do the graveyard shift. This time around, and Mike said he'll do the graveyard shift for the national, for the national election. Because I said, Mike, he lives in Wilbraham, and I was like, that's going to be a lot. But he said, you know what, Tina, I'm going to be up late anyway, watching the results come in. So
Yeah,
he
he's
said,
a
I might as well
junkie.
do
Yeah,
it here.
right.
I said,
Yep.
okay. So, but for this little piddly election yesterday, Pete, I was talking to Megan.
You have to do it full cost.
Full cost, and they have to double count everything now. We didn't get out of there until 11 o'clock last night. The polls closed at 8, and it took the poll workers 3 hours because they have to, do all the stuff that they do and verify and all that stuff and double count. I was talking to Megan Kane because Sue Figgy was working, Happy Daily. I mean, it was like old home week when I got there. 2 police officers. 11 o'clock. So
Why do they have so many 2 police officers now?
It is the day. It's the time that we live in. It's just what can I tell you?
So
But
they
anyway,
changed the state regulations again. Then.
I don't know that. I don't know. All I can tell you is
They must
we
have.
had to.
Because they do what the state regulations are. So I bet you the regulations changed.
I don't know. All I can tell you is it was a very late night and a very early morning. But anyway, I did my thing. So Mikey's got the November 5th one. But thank you. You know what? Thank you to everyone who voted. And I have to say, for me, like now, my whole family, we did it all by mail. I mean, it's just so, voting is so easy now. You don't have to be there on the day of. You can do early voting if you want to do it in person. You can do early voting.
I like voting in person either early or day of.
I prefer that. But my problem is when I was at the senior center covering, I had to be there the whole time. There was no time for me to run out. Well, that's what I used to have to do. Is like I would run out in the middle of the day, run back to West Springfield so I can vote and then come back. So now I vote by mail, but I don't mail it at the post office. I actually mail it in the drop box or take it to City Hall. So, and you know what? The other thing is like that was an opportunity for me to say to my family, okay, we were all going to do this. So I said, everybody fill out your ballots now because I'm taking them down to City Hall, tomorrow. So I knew that all three of us voted.
Right. I like it that way. If you're going to do voting by mail or dropping it off, I don't like the ballot harvesting one. The laws where you can do ballot harvesting. So parties can send out workers to like people's homes and get their ballots and then bring it to a place.
Wow, I'm surprised that they can do that.
That's allowed in I think it's 11 states.
Yeah,
ballot harvesting. Yeah. So what they do is they'll assist you with getting the mail-in ballot.
Yep.
There's question on whether they assist you filling out the ballot.
Yeah.
And then they bring the ballot to a drop box
or
mail or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that because it's a chain of custody issue.
Sure. Well, yeah, I get that.
And who's filling it out, if you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And by the way, I put a sign on the drop box at the senior center because one of the staff members had kind of thrown up a handmade sign saying, this is not a place for you to drop your ballots off.
Right.
So, the ballots we do have a drop box for the city, but it's at City Hall. So just
right.
for future reference.
It's outside of the side door.
Okay, right. And
that's where it should be, I think. Isn't it outside of the side door? Yeah.
It is right because it's right near the accessible entrance into City Hall. All right. Okay, so September 4th is National Newspaper Carrier Day. Recognizes the dedicated newspaper carriers who deliver the news in the wee hours of the morning. While the routine of the newspaper carrier has changed over the years, they still exist in some form. The average ages have changed too since the dawn of the first paper carrier. And perhaps the delivery methods have also changed. However, they all owe their start to an enterprising young immigrant in New York City over 180 years ago. According to a captioned photo released by the Museum of the City of New York, the Sun's publisher, Benjamin Day, hired the first paperboy on September 4th, 1833. 10-year-old Barney Flaherty answered the advertisement that September day, although the ad specified that steady men could apply. Benjamin Day was so impressed by the boy's sincerity that he gave him the job. Down on the corner, Flaherty could soon be heard hawking his sales pitch. Eventually, a universal chorus of boys, and sometimes girls, calling, "Paper, get your paper here," could be heard on the streets. In 1960, the Newspaper Carrier Hall of Fame was created to acknowledge some famous newspaper carriers in our nation's history. Included in the Newspaper Carrier Hall of Fame are Martin Luther King Jr., Warren Buffett, and John Wayne. And I can also add Dr. Gary Gorman, because Gary delivered newspapers for many years when he was a kid. Did you write to Pete?
I was a Sunday Republican delivery. Me and my brother.
Yep. Gary, and then Gary's sister and her husband did it for several years as just kind of like, an extra paycheck coming in. They were trying to save up to buy a house. Mm-hmm. So how to observe. Show your newspaper carrier a little extra appreciation, a box of chocolates, a card, or, as Pete, as you were saying earlier, a simple thank you. Just an acknowledgement would really make their day a little bit brighter. Enjoy the ease that we have in being able to wake up, get our coffee, and have a paper to read before getting out of our pajamas. If you were a newspaper carrier, take the day to reminisce a bit. Share stories from your delivery routes and the people you knew then. I know some of Gary's, most his famous stories really had to do with delivering the Sunday paper, which at that time, because that was before the internet, back in the 60s, he said the Sunday paper, by the time he got done bundling them, because it was all the ads.
3 sections.
It was all the coupons, right, for the week.
Yep.
And Gary said those papers were so heavy by the time he got done with them. And, however many people you had on your route, it's a lot of people, a lot of papers, a lot of weight. So thank you. And, that kind of segues into the fact that, speaking of newspaper deliveries, thank you to the person who delivers our Voice of Experience newsletter. It literally is in the wee hours of the morning because we get the paper Friday. It's actually early Saturday morning. And when I say early, I mean sometime between usually 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning is when they deliver these. So these, the September issue hit the streets. We're going to talk about that after this break because we have a lot going on. We have some really big events going on in September at the Senior Center that we're excited about. One event that we're bringing back after a 5-year hiatus, and then an annual that we've been doing nonstop even through the pandemic. So we'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. It's 6:46, and in honor of the birthday of Bubba Knight, we're going to listen to Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight and the Pips.
For the man, too much for the man. He couldn't make it, so he's leaving the life he's come to know. Ooh. He said he's going. He said he's going back to find. Going back to find. Ooh, what's left of his world? The world he left behind. Not so long ago. He's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. On the midnight train. Yeah. Said he's going back to a simpler place and time. Oh, yes, he is. Train, Georgia. Living on the midnight train. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. World is his and hers alone. He kept dreaming, ooh, that someday he'd be a star, a superstar, but he didn't get far. But he sure found out the hard way. The dreams don't always come true. Oh no. So he climbed on his horse, and he even sold his old car. Bought a one-way ticket back to the life he once knew. Oh yes, he did. He said he would. Oh, he's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. Yeah. Said he's going back to find, ooh, a simpler place and time. Oh, yeah. And I'm gonna be with him on that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. Oh, he's leaving on the midnight train to Georgia. Yeah, ooh, y'all. Said he's going back to find a simpler place and time. Ooh, y'all. I've got to be with him
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:51. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So I promised that I would talk a little bit about what's happening at the Senior Center in September. There's a lot going on. I mentioned that the Voice of Experience newsletter has hit the streets, and right on the front page, big, bold headline, we are bringing back our senior options. What used to be our annual sort of health and wellness fair. And I'm using that term very, very broadly because that's the way we designed it. And that's coming back on September 19th, which is a Thursday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is kind of back by popular demand. This is a fair that we used to traditionally, for as long as I've been at the Senior Center, we used to do it in April during school vacation. The reason for that was because when we were at the old Senior Center, we didn't have enough room for it. And so we used to use the cafeteria over at the middle school.
Gotcha.
And we could only do that when the students weren't there. So
Right.
we used to do it the Thursday of school vacation week. When we opened the new Senior Center, we started doing it at the new Senior Center, which was far more convenient than having to lug everything over there and go over there and work with the custodians who were fantastic to help me set everything up the day before. But certainly more convenient to do it at the new Senior Center. But we just kind of kept that time frame. We had always done it in April. It seemed to work out well for the staff, for our staff, and for the seniors. And then the pandemic hit. And I had actually started planning the 2020 Senior Options event. I had the vendors lined up. Everything was lined up. And then obviously we had to cancel the event. So it's been a 5-year hiatus. The last year that we actually did it was 2019. I've had seniors requesting it, and the staff and I had talked about it, and we just really wanted to, wait until we felt like it was safe to hold that kind of an event with that number of people indoors. And we feel like the time has come. So we are hosting it, as I said, I decided that we're going to try it in September. We have never done it this month before, so this is kind of a little new for us. It is being hosted obviously by the Council on Aging. Lucky for the new director that this whole coordinating this whole event falls under the job description of the Special Projects Coordinator. So I am continuing to do that and just getting lots of approvals and okays from my executive director, Mike Squindo. So thank you for that, Mike. It is being hosted by the Council on Aging, as I said, but it is being sponsored by First and Adams Funeral Service. A million thanks to Jim Adams, who over the years has been so generous in helping to support our efforts. This really is a community service. We do not charge the vendors for their tables. A lot of these senior fairs, just in order to pay for advertising and some of the basic costs, charge the vendors. We do not charge any of our vendors. The focus is on services and programs, and that includes, health and wellness, housing, government, medical and disability services, community support services, and even leisure and recreation, because that's all part of, the total quality of life for the city's seniors. So and this is all, as I said, this is all on the front page of this month's Westfield News. We also have a flyer that will be distributed starting today, and we have these hanging, kind of all over the senior center. We'll have some advertising in the Westfield News, and Tyler Lederer from The Reminder is doing a big story on this. So we're really excited about it. But just to give you a little flavor of some of the vendors that we have coming in, Pete, you and I were talking before about the upcoming election. We've never had the Westfield City Clerk there, but Caitlin Bruce will have a table there so that people will have an opportunity to register to vote. They can apply for an absentee ballot, or they can just ask Caitlin any questions that they have about what her office does. Also, for the first time, we're going to have Rosemary Sakamani there. She is the Register of Probate, and their office is responsible. They are the official keeper of the records and the day-to-day operation of the county's probate and family court. So that court deals with issues such as estates, guardianship, name changes, custody, child support, adoptions, divorce, and abuse preventions. So that certainly is a court that, our seniors have had to use, especially on guardianship issues. We're also going to have Gandara Center will be there. Again, will be a first for them. Among the many services that they offer, they run or facilitate the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Support Group. So that has kind of transitioned out of the retired adjustment counselors from the Westfield schools. Maureen Vitarelli and Kathy Fry started that support group many, many years ago. They were both adjustment counselors for the Westfield schools. They are now retired, and so they've turned over that program, but it's a super important program. Of course, there will be, tables for that, WOW will be represented, and we'll have government officials there, Representative Pease and Representative Finn, both representing portions of Westfield. Senator Vilas will have a table there. Senator Vilas is, at his table, they will be collecting worn or damaged American flags for a proper and respectful burial or disposal or retirement, as they like to say. Also, Lynn Hills will be there. Lynn is the Senior Benefits Coordinator for the Council on Aging. Lynn is will be there at a separate table. She's going to be. I'm putting her in the Fireside Lounge. We're going to be using the great room in the Fireside Lounge. Lynn will be beginning Medicare open enrollment that always begins in October, mid-October. And in order to get an appointment with Lynn, you have to fill out, there's a Medicare open enrollment pre-appointment form that has to be completed. The first day that form will be available will be at the Senior Options event. So if you want to schedule an appointment with Lynn for the Medicare open enrollment to go over your prescriptions and all of that in October, you're going to need to fill out this form. And as Lynn gets the forms in, and she used this method last year, it worked very, very well because the form gives her a lot of information that'll save her time when she actually meets with you. It also lets her know that you're serious about scheduling an appointment and you're not going to be a no-show. So those forms will be available at the Senior Options event. They will not be available before then. Now, they will certainly be available after the event until she runs out of appointments. And then, that's it. So Lynn will have a table. I'm going to put her right in the Fireside Lounge. Vantage, which is the skilled nursing facility right down the street from the senior center, they'll have a table. They're going to have their nurse there doing blood pressure. So if you're, so inclined, we'll have a blood pressure clinic going on. The Mass Commission for the Blind will be there. Westfield Gas and Electric will be there. So Bay State Noble Hospital, Bay State Noble Hospice, Home Health and Hospice will be there. Highland Valley Elder Services. I call this kind of one-stop shopping. So this is a great opportunity for seniors, and it's also a great opportunity for family members, to come. The assisted living, Armbrook Village will be there. Arbors will be there. So, just a great opportunity to get a lot of information all in one place. Pete Coles will be there because this is the first time that we've had WCPC. Pete's going to have the stage area. I went through the listing of vendors, Pete, so I have several that we're going to try to get some interviews going on that will be taped, and we will be able to play those down the road. Kathy Millis, the treasurer and the clerk for the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center, is going to help out with the interviewing.
I'm thinking about
So
bringing the sports announcer headsets because it's going to be loud in there.
It is going to be loud in there. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's probably a really good idea because
Yep.
it is going to be loud in there. We're going to have a lot of people, 35 vendors. We'll have 6 of them probably out in the Fireside Lounge. But yeah, we'll have 30 vendors at least in the
Yeah,
in
it's
the
going to be a
great
lot
room.
of talking, so I think I'm bringing that so people can hear each other for the interviews.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be. I'm really excited about it. I think this is a great event. We're gonna and I also want to extend a thank you. I got formal approval yesterday. The Westfield Police Department is going to help out with some traffic control because I'm a little concerned about, especially about people exiting the parking lot, trying to make that left-hand turn onto Noble Street. So we will have for a good portion of it, we'll have the Westfield Police Department helping us out with traffic control. So thank you to them. And speaking of the Westfield Police Department, that segues into my next little commercial here. We are doing our annual Cops for a Cause chili luncheon the following week. So that'll be Thursday, September 26th. The tickets are $5. This is a fundraiser for our local Alzheimer's Association. Retired Senior Safety Officer Mark Carbonneau will be back stirring the chili pot. We're excited about that. Our featured entertainers are Richie Mitnick and retired West Springfield police officer and DARE officer Ethel Lee. They will be doing the entertainment. We'll have root beer floats served by Chief Petoniak and members of the Westfield Police Department. The tickets go on sale tomorrow, September 5th at 9 a.m. at the Senior Center. We have a limit of 4 tickets per person. So this is a great cause. Again, all of the proceeds, any money that we raise will go to our local Alzheimer's Association. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My second hour guests are waiting in the wings, Carol Palmer and Harry Rock. We're going to continue our series on outdoor warm weather activities. We will be back.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and it is the first Wednesday of the month, so Carol Palmer joins me. Carol is the group exercise instructor at the Senior Center, first and only so far. And Carol Carol and I started, she joins me on the first Wednesday every month, and we started this segment back in, I think it was in May, because we had this brilliant idea of let's do a segment on outdoor activities, fitness, exercise activities, primarily during the warm weather, but I think we may expand that into some of the cooler weather because there are certainly some great outdoor activity. There are other things to do, yeah. Yep. So, but anyway, and so far to recap, we've done a fabulous job, Carol. We've done golf. We had Ted Perez in from
that was
East
a good
Mount.
segment.
That was fun, and I found some great songs for that. So that was great. I learned a lot from Ted about golf. We had Harry Rock come in and talk about cycling. We had Harry Rock come in and talking about canoeing, which I learned a lot about. And by the way, Harry, speaking of canoeing, I know you're getting your gear out, so you just keep going. But I heard this segment on NPR yesterday about a guy who designed a canoe that also had wheels, so it's almost like a combination of cycle canoe. Have you heard about this at all?
No, I haven't.
I don't know what country he's from. It was a fascinating interview, and he did it because he wanted to. He is a canoe enthusiast and also a cycling enthusiast, and he wanted to create something where he could literally go from land to water with the same sort of vehicle. And I came in halfway through the interview, and he said it's just I guess now they've started manufacturing these things a little bit, but I'll get more information on that. But
I saw somebody with a jet canoe selling a jet canoe.
This is like right up at Harry's
alley. It's like the duck boats.
Well, it's like a similar thing. And he had a story. I mean, he wasn't a salesman or anything. He was really an outdoorsman, an adventurer, and he said he really designed this just for himself, just because he said he was doing hiking and things, and he said, and I just found then you'd come to water, and it's like, well, okay, I either have to go around the long way or I have to turn around and go back. So I don't have a lot of details yet, but I'll get details.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, so that was fun. And then, so Harry did the one on canoeing. And then last month, we had one on Nancy Stolpinski came in and talked about pickleball. Which was my husband Gary's convinced that pickleball will be at the next Olympics, the Summer Olympics.
I agree with him.
He said I absolutely think it'll be there.
Yeah.
But learning the history of pickleball and why it's called pickleball.
That was amazing.
That was such a great interview. I've learned so much on all of these interviews. So I'm super excited.
My niece is in Florida right now at a pickleball convention.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
Right?
Yes. I mean, there are tournaments all over the place now.
And
that's like
tournaments. Yeah.
Now how so many of the charities do golf tournament fundraisers, and now pickleball fundraisers. That's that's becoming the thing.
Let's do one.
Let's think about that.
New equipment.
Well, I knew that the parish cupboard in West Springfield, because I used to be on the board there, and I'm on their golf committee tournament. I know they last year started a pickleball tournament in September because they wanted to steal all of my golf tournament ideas. Because well, that's okay, because one of the board members on the parish cupboard is on both committees. So I said, that's fine. But anyway, I guess it was wildly successful last year, so they're doing it again. So I'll get some info. But anyway, I digress. We are back now, and Harry Rock is back. And this month he is going to talk about hiking. And I sent him an email and I said, I'm sure you have some props to bring. And of course he has. Look at this table. I mean, looks like we're having a flea market here.
You've only got about 1% of what's in my basement here.
We always only have about like 1%, if even that, of what's in your basement.
Yeah, I know.
Harry Rock
like
is the former director of the YMCA of Greater Westfield, former director of the Office of YMCA Relations and National YMCA Hall of Fame at Springfield College. So welcome back, Harry. And of course, Harry has his own show, Rock on Westfield, on the fourth Wednesday of every month.
Yep.
And it comes on right after my show. So,
And we should put a shout out that I also host Westfield Council on Aging Presents, which is brand new show, started yesterday, 2:45 every Tuesday and Thursday this month. I am interviewing the Attorney General, Anthony Gallooni.
District Attorney Anthony
District
Gallooni.
Attorney,
Yep.
right. And it is a fascinating show all about dating scams for older adults. So you definitely want to tune in and listen to that.
Yeah, and Harry, thank you for for mentioning that, because that was in my pile of things that I wanted to get into here. Well, we talked about the fact that the newsletter came out and there was an article on that, and that, just to give people a little bit of the backstory of that, there were several directors when I was still directing, when I was still the executive director at the Council on Aging. There's a regional group of directors, and we used to meet, when they still do, Mike Squindo's still doing it, virtually on a monthly basis. And more directors were losing sleep over the fact that they had seniors who were falling prey to dating and marriage scams. So, there's a whole thing about, text messaging and emails, and suddenly, somebody's in love with you and they're going to marry you and whisk you away to we had, seriously, one was, we're going to be buying a home together in California. So I needed to transfer my, my personal checking and all my savings. Oh my God.
I knew somebody that flew to Florida and waited for a week in a hotel room for somebody that was never going to appear.
I know. And here's the thing, Pete. The problem is that these directors are saying, Tina, we're explaining this to these people, like, this is a scam. This is not real. It's not going to happen. But a lot of the people that are being preyed upon are recently widowed. They're lonely and they're looking for love. And so I reached out to the DA's office and I said, I want to do a Westfield Council on Aging Presents segment on this, very specifically on dating and marriage scams. And we've done them on financial scams and bank fraud and, identity theft and all of that. But I said, this one is really challenging. And I reached out to them and said, can you recommend somebody who could do this? And I got an email back saying the DA wants to do it himself.
Yeah, he was excellent.
So I am really very excited about this. We're going to be offering it to other senior centers, to show.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So thank you to Harry and Pete for putting that together. And as Harry mentioned, in addition to all of these other things that you have done or are doing, Harry's been hosting that for 4 years. I mean, that started 2020 during the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm going to be putting together, because at the Senior Options event, we'll have a list of all of those COA presents that are on YouTube. That's great. And I think what I'm trying to figure out is how to break them down. I think I'm going to do it by category as opposed to chronologically by date. So
that would make a lot more sense, because
a
lot of them do follow trends, and then we've been doing it long enough, so you're starting to get a little bit of overlap in certain areas.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it really supports each other. So
absolutely.
Great series. I'm thrilled to do that.
So listen, I think what we're going to do is we're so close to the quarter hour. Let's start with a little introduction song to the topic. The topic today is hiking, and then we'll just be able to get right into it and move through. So we're going to play a song called "Back on the Trail Again." It's by have you ever heard this guy's name is Walkin' Jim Stoltz. He passed away. He was an avid hiker. And he also was a musician. Harry, just like you, just the same kind of thing. So you're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back.
Going down the Santa Ritas, the mountain shadows playing down below. The moon's already bright, like a smile in the night, and I can make out the lights in Mexico. The desert winds are whispering down the valley. The coyotes, you can hear them from afar. I know it's only words, but it's peace on earth. Sitting here and singing to the stars. And I'm back on the trail again. Miss you like some long-lost friend. Sometimes I think I'm just a part of the wind when I'm back on the trail again. It's been a long, cold winter. I've been trapped like a lion in a cage. Spring it held the key, and it came and set me free. Now I'm a walking wild and stepping through the sage. And I'm back on the trail again. Miss you like some long-lost friend. Sometimes I think I'm just a part of the wind when I'm back on the trail again. And the breeze caresses like some sweet lover. And I come back to see her now and then. 'Cause I sure miss the pack and their wide open tracks. Can't wait to be out on the trail again. And I'm back on the trail again. Just like some long-lost friend. Sometimes I think I'm just a part of the wind when I'm back on the trail again. Sometimes I think I'm just a part of the wind when I'm back on the trail again and again. Back on the trail again and again. Back on the trail again and again. Back on the trail again.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:18. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is behind the glass. Carol Palmer joins me on the first Wednesday of every month. And our guest this morning is Harry Rock. And Harry is just such a wonderful outdoor enthusiast. So this is the third of the segments. He's done one on cycling and one on canoeing. And today's topic is hiking. And I really love this topic because I think, you know, we're not talking about mountain climbing, folks, but we're talking about hiking. And I think that hiking can really be a sport or an activity for lots of different people. So correct me if I'm wrong. Harry, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, and as I came in today, this is the first day I've had to wear a jacket in the morning. Yeah. It was chilly out this morning. But this is prime hiking weather.
It's awesome.
And this is when you want to be out here. You know, the summer was very hot, very muggy, not a great time to go hiking.
Yeah.
Right now, this is why we live in Western Massachusetts. It is. You know, these clear days, low humidity, chilly nights, still relatively comfortable days with temperature-wise. So it's fabulous hiking weather.
Okay.
And the thing and I'm going to start jumping into this
Yes,
because there's
please.
a lot to the topic, and
Okay.
we probably won't cover everything that we need to. But I think that people need to kind of to what you were just talking about. So you have to define hiking.
Yeah.
Well, hiking is basically everything that you would do when you go backpacking, except that you're not staying overnight.
Right.
Hiking is just day hiking, and that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to think about easy hiking, moderate hiking, or challenging hiking.
Right.
What kind of hiking do you want to do? What kind of fitness levels are you in? How much energy do you have?
Yeah.
Do you know the terrain? And what is the weather conditions that you're going to be coming into? So that's really a big part of it. And depending on the type of hiking that you're looking at, whether easy, moderate, or challenging, defines what you need for equipment, clothing, accessories, and support.
Okay.
So that's really key. I think that the biggest factor that you have to look at with hiking or any outdoor, whether it's skiing, cycling, canoeing, is weather.
Okay.
What are you going to be coming into? What are you starting with for weather? What are you ending with weather?
Okay.
And what can potentially go on in between? So you've really got to watch your weather patterns and watch your weather forecast,
yeah.
for that day.
Yeah.
Are they predicting storms? If they're predicting storms, that's a game changer. You got to think about, am I prepared for that? If it's thunderstorms, lightning, where am I going to find cover? And torrential rains can turn trails into just torrents, streams and torrents.
Yep.
I've seen that. I've hiked in that kind of stuff. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So you really need to be careful of what you're coming into. Days like this where it's, I was watching the weather this morning. Well, basically yesterday they showed the radar. You can't tell that it's moving, but it really is. Just look at the times because there's nothing coming across.
Yep.
It's just sunshine.
It's
going to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
These are the days that you want to be out. And then, you look at the weather and how long are you going to hike for? And you say, okay, well, let's just go out for a couple hours in the morning or maybe a couple hours in the afternoon or midday or whatever. A lot of it depends on how long you want to go for. And then the other thing, what weather then determines is what you're going to bring for clothing,
right,
and what you need to wear for clothing.
Right.
And I think that LL Bean, who I'm a big fan of, and I used to be a product tester for them many years ago, which was
really
cool. Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's why his basement is full.
Yeah, I used to get these boxes of stuff, and I'd have to write up reviews. That was a great little gig. But their adage was, and still is, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad clothing.
Oh my gosh, I have heard that from my friend Steve and Liz White, who are also avid outdoors people. Really? And it's like, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad clothing. Yeah,
so I want to jump into a couple of key things.
Okay.
Let's start with footwear. Quickly.
I was going to say, can we start with footwear, Harry? Because I think that's super important.
It really is. And hiking is not going out with your running shoes. I see people doing it, and if you're hiking around Ashley Reservoir or something, you can go that kind of hiking. The hiking I'm talking about is trail hiking, where it's roots, it's rocks, uneven surfaces. You need something that's got a really stiff sole and can provide the support that you need. And so when I think about hiking and footwear, there's two directions you can go. You can go with a low shoe, but this is a hiking shoe, so it's got a really heavy lugged sole on it.
Okay.
There is some kind of a shank, probably a fiberglass shank in here, that gives it a lot of lateral support. So when you're walking on rocks and edges and roots and stuff, the thing isn't just flopping and kind of molding to the shape. You need to take care of your feet.
Right.
Your feet are your key to getting in and getting out.
Yep.
And you need to know that you've got good footwear. Make sure that it fits well, it's got support. You can buy shoes that are waterproof. This one isn't. This one is ventilated. So it's got mesh on top.
Okay.
I didn't want something that was waterproof because your feet are going to sweat. There's no way for all the vapor. Your feet really sweat when you're walking.
Yeah.
And hiking or doing anything of that nature. And so in this case, when it's warm out, I want shoes that are going to ventilate. So a lot of people have a low shoe like this, and that's fine for basically easy to moderate hiking. If you're getting into challenging hiking, which is much more strenuous and more challenging ground conditions with trail conditions, I wouldn't recommend this. You want to start going to a hiking shoe that's got an upper, it's got a lot of ankle support, again, heavy lugged sole. This one is a waterproof boot, and this one is what I use in the winter. I use it in the fall. I can use it in the snow. I can use it in the rain. But it's really key to have something that's got a really strong shank in it that goes down 3/4 of the sole. So again, when it's walking on edges and things, the sole isn't collapsing under your foot.
So if someone's just starting, you would recommend the first shoe.
Yeah, because chances are they're trying it out.
Right. And I would say, too, if somebody's just starting, they're going to probably be starting on trails that are not as challenging as what Harry's talking about for the boot. So, I mean, I would start on something. It's like taking an exercise class, kind of start with something basic and then say, okay, I can do this easily. I'm ready to move up to the next thing. So.
Right. Now, regardless of what type of shoe, and the thing, too, is that when you buy a shoe, make sure that you are wearing this around the house. Make sure you're wearing around the yard.
Break it in.
Break it in. Go up to Ashley Reservoir. Walk on the rail trail here in Westfield. You need to break these things in. Do not take a brand new shoe and then walk in it. You're going to get blisters. If you get blisters, you've got a real serious problem. We're going to talk about that.
I can't even
but
imagine.
Blisters is a game changer, and it will. People, I can tough it out. No, you can't tough it out. When you get a blister and that thing breaks, now you're down to raw flesh.
Oh, yeah.
And it is
It's
painful.
nasty.
And we're going to talk about how you...
And the other thing is that it something like that kind of sometimes makes people say, "Oh, I'm not doing that again."
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just give up completely.
Right.
So
sock wear is really critical when it comes to wearing a shoe when you're hiking. You always wear a liner. Now, you can get silk liners. This is a polypropylene liner. The idea is that they will move the sweat that's on your foot, the moisture that's on your foot, wicks it away into your sock. I am a fan of wool because wool will keep your foot in, especially in the wintertime. Wool will keep your feet warm even when they're soaking wet. It's one of the few fabrics that will do that. Or a synthetic sock, again, that will not absorb moisture and that will wick it away. But this will also help prevent blisters because it creates what happens with the blister when a sock gets wet, it starts sticking to your skin, and that is it's now trying to slide, but it can't. And something has to give. So your skin, which is multiple layers, even though its skin is thin, but it's multiple layers. Those layers start breaking apart, and that's where the bubble and all that oozing stuff that is inside that's where the blister comes from. And once that blister breaks, you're in trouble. So you need to have a good liner sock and then a good outer sock, and make sure that when you put those socks on, that they don't take up so much room that now your foot is cramped.
Well, I was going to say that, Harry. I think so. That's really, people need to try the shoe on with the socks.
You always
because you're probably going to need a bigger size.
Right.
I mean, I know for even when I'm running, I need
wider.
a bit, or wider, or longer.
Yeah,
or both.
I tend to go maybe a half size larger.
Yep.
But I always bring the socks that I'm going to wear
with the shoe. Yeah.
With the shoe when I'm trying them on to make sure that I've got the right thing.
Absolutely.
The other thing that goes with wearing shoes outside is that when you're walking on trails, you are kicking up little stones, dirt, sticks. Everything is going down into your shoe. If it starts raining, all that water is now going into your shoe. So I am a huge fan. I've been using gaiters ever since I started doing this back in my early 20s and stuff. And the gaiter basically just fits around the cuff of the shoe, and that goes around your leg, and it creates basically a waterproof. Yeah, thanks, Carol. It creates a waterproof and debris-proof barrier, so you don't get all this stuff have you ever been hiking? You
Yes.
take your socks off,
Yes.
and your shoes off, and you got leaves and
Oh yeah,
dirt
you got
and-
all this junk. You got
Yeah,
half of the
well,
mountain is.
That's
in your
also
shoe.
what creates blisters.
Yeah.
That can create irritation in your feet, and now you got to take your shoes off, empty the stuff out, put your just
Yeah.
slowly. Always, always, always.
What is that called, Harry? That
It's
black?
called a gator.
A gator.
Gator.
Okay.
This is a short one. I also have knee-high ones that I use when I'm out snowshoeing.
Okay.
In deep snow and stuff. But for hiking, all you need is a low one.
Okay.
But these are a game changer,
Okay.
and you really need to think
Gator.
about that for use when you're hiking. So now let's talk about basic clothing.
Okay.
No cotton.
Okay.
No cotton.
Okay.
No cotton. Cotton kills.
Okay. No
Cotton is the worst thing you can have. If you think about cotton, that's what candle wicks are made out of for oil lamps. So you put your wick in the oil, and all that oil migrates right up, and then the flame creates. Well, and that's where the flame comes from. Same idea with blue jeans or anything cotton.
Yeah.
You can get the cuff of your blue jeans wet, which is why you should not wear blue jeans when you're hiking. And that water, even though you only got the cuff of it wet, all of a sudden all that water migrates. And it has to do with the cell construction of the fabric.
Okay.
Those are linear cells, and it promotes the migration of moisture all the way up, which is why oil lamp wicks work.
Yep.
But that's not what you want. That's why
Exactly.
wool is so good, because wool is a closed cell. It gets wet, it stops right there. It doesn't go anywhere else. And wool has the ability to remain warm even though it's soaking wet.
Yeah.
So cotton kills. This is the worst thing you can do. And if you think about when you are washing clothes, T-shirts, towels, what's the last thing to dry?
Right.
Cotton.
Yeah.
It takes jeans. It takes forever to dry them.
Yeah.
So if you are out in a wilderness situation, being dry is key. The body loses heat at a rate of 26 times faster when it's wet,
Okay.
than it does when it's dry. Think about when you come out of a shower, especially in the wintertime, you come out of the shower before you've toweled off, you're freezing. As soon as you towel off, you're much more comfortable.
Yep.
The same idea.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you are staying dry. The
Okay.
key to survival in the wilderness is staying dry. So no cotton. So we do work with synthetics, and there's all kind of materials and shirts. And when you go into places like Sam Outdoors, Eastern Mountain Sports, REI, they sell all of these kinds of things. If you're a runner, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
You're looking for, basically, those of you who run, that's hiking clothing.
Yeah. I'm curious, Harry, what do you, for hiking, what do you wear on your lower extremities? What kind of pants or shorts do you wear?
So again, synthetics.
Okay.
So I didn't bring long pants with me,
No,
but
no,
I
that's
brought
okay.
a pair of shorts.
Yeah, okay.
These are synthetics. They
Okay.
get wet. Matter of fact, I was wearing these the other day because I was power washing my house.
Yeah.
And I was getting soaked from all the spray and the wind blowing.
Yeah.
These things got soaked, and then they dried within
Right.
minutes.
It's like a bathing suit.
Yeah,
it'll
it
dry right
dries
away.
quickly.
Okay.
And the same thing, I have long pants that I wear that are
Same, okay.
synthetic. In heavy winter conditions, I'm wearing wool pants because, again, they stay very warm,
Yep.
and they're going to keep me wet even if they get wet. So that's really key. So synthetic clothing, undergarments, the same thing.
Yep.
Don't wear cotton. You're going to be very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And once it gets wet, it just doesn't dry.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be wet, clammy, and if it's chilly out, you're going to really feel it. So it's really, really key.
Harry, I have a question.
Yep.
I'm just going to interject here. So on the pants, I'm really keyed into this.
Yeah, sure.
Do you recommend pants that, like the jogger pants that gather at the ankle or open? Or does it not matter? Because you're going to have your gaiters on,
because you have gaiters, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then
So
if
it's
they
whatever your
gather
preference is.
at the bottom, does it fit around the cuff of
the
your
shoe,
boot?
Right, the boot.
So you got to really
Okay.
think about
Okay.
that. I always have
Open.
just regular
Okay.
open-ended.
Okay.
But again, I'm wearing gaiters, so
Yes.
they go over.
Okay.
But it has to fit over your boot,
Okay.
so you have to think about that.
All right.
But again, anything that's synthetic is really, really key. Long-sleeved just a thin long sleeve shirt that you could put over
Right.
your
Well,
short
I'm
sleeve
thinking
shirt.
too, as like you were sort of comparing this to runners, and there's a lot of layering that happens.
It's all about
and
layering.
I think with hiking, there would be a whole lot of layering because, especially if you're starting out earlier in the morning and then the temperature
Yep.
goes up. Plus now you're sweating, the sun comes
Right.
out, pretty soon you're peeling clothes off. So, and cyclists, it's the same thing. I see my husband do it all the time. We got, all these layers.
all
and I
about
said
layering.
to Gary, it's
Thin
boring.
layers.
And Gary said, if you're cycling, and you're going downhill, it's cold.
It's cold.
So, he's constantly layering. And I think with hiking, it looks
Right.
like I'm just looking at this array.
It's exactly it.
Yeah.
And again, synthetic.
Okay.
You'll notice that they're all bright colors. They're not black.
I did notice that.
I
Is
don't
there a
want
reason for that?
Absolutely. I don't
Okay.
want to blend into the wilderness.
Okay.
I want to stand out.
Yep.
You have hunters out there
Yep.
potentially, like this is hunting season right
Yeah.
now. Also, if I get lost
Yeah.
and people need to find me, I want to be brightly attired. Or if I'm searching for somebody, I want whoever I'm searching for. I've
be able
been
to
on
see
I've been on
you.
rescue
Yeah.
teams before. I want them to be able to see me, but you want to stand out.
Yeah.
You absolutely want to. So it's all about. I love bright colors. Anyway,
Well, it's really funny that you said that because I noticed that right away. I'm like, wow, we got orange, we have gold, we have
Right.
red. I mean,
Yep,
as
they're all
you said,
very,
there's,
very
there's
bright.
no gray or black in
Right.
there.
The other thing that I'm a huge fan of are vests because your core, your extremities will be comfortable if you can keep your core warm.
Okay.
And a lot of times when you're out hiking and outdoor, you've got wind chill. Wind chill is a big factor.
Yes.
Because it's going to it's trying to suck the heat out of you. So if you can keep your core warm, and I just use, like this is just a very thin
Okay.
shell,
Yep.
but it really helps to protect my
Okay.
core. Same kind of thing I would wear when I'm cycling, to
Yep.
Gary's point.
Yep.
It breaks the wind, and I have these for cycling as well. But you want to be able to keep that core comfortable and be able to your point, a lot of thin layers that are easy to take off, easy to put on.
Right.
When you're in the woods, you are warmer than when you're out in the open crossing fields. When you're in the woods, you hear the wind, you don't feel it because it's above you. It doesn't get into the trees.
Yep.
But when you have to break out into openings, all of a sudden you're hitting the wind.
Yeah.
That can be a real game changer, especially when the temperatures are just 40 or 50 degrees. It's amazing
Yeah.
how chilly that can be. So you really want to be a factor of that.
So, Harry, if you wear layers and then you take them off,
Yep.
then when you're hiking, do you need a backpack? I mean, what do you do
Yeah,
with the
like what do
clothes?
you do with them?
So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So let me just
Okay.
continue on the clothing
Okay.
thing. Great lead-in, though, Carol.
Yes,
Great.
excellent.
You're going to be a great hiker because you're already thinking about this. So, and again, depending on what you're doing, this is whether you're easy, moderate, or challenging. How
Right.
long are you going to be out there?
Right.
If you're only going out for a walk, an
Yeah.
hour walk around Ashley Reservoir or around Stanley Park, you don't need all this gear.
Right.
You're only doing it for an hour. But if you're going out and let's do a section of the Appalachian
Yeah.
Trail, the AT, or let's go hike a part of Greylock or go up
Yep.
to Mount Tom. We're going to be out for several hours. Whether, especially with the days are shorter now,
Yes.
you have to be thinking about the fact I have less
I thought the
sunshine.
same thing. Yes.
So it takes longer now in the fall, takes longer for the days to warm up. So when they say, it's going to be a high of 75 today, when does the 75 hit? Like at
Right.
2 or 3 in the
And,
afternoon.
and when do we start losing the 75?
And then you lose it
You've gotta-
almost
yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
It starts getting
Yeah,
dark.
it's chilly.
So the amount of warmth you have is much less than what you have in the summer. So you have to think about that. So again, I always bring like some type of a fleece. I'm a fan of full zips because I can
am too.
unzip
Yeah.
and full zip.
Yeah.
It's all about when you start sweating, you want to release heat. You don't want to sweat.
Yeah.
The key to survival in the wilderness, and we're not talking about wilderness stuff, but it's the same concept for basic hiking, stay dry. You don't want to sweat. So you want to be able to take your hats off, take layers off, unzip, release heat when you need it, be able to zip back up and retain heat when you want it.
Okay.
But again, this is a synthetic material. Fleece doesn't absorb moisture, stays warm if it gets wet, and it will dry really, really quickly. Headwear is really, really key. So being follically challenged on top, I always wear hats, but even everybody should wear hats because when you're outside, the sun is a big factor. You want the brim to shade the sun. You also want the brim to protect glasses like I wear when it's raining or snowing. And it also makes it easier to see when you're blocking the sun that's coming in. But you want to have a hat because, again, the head region, because so much blood moves from the body into the head, upwards of 70, 75 to 80% of your body heat is carried by blood. That's all going to nourish your brain. So you think of it as a skylight in your house. If it's hot out, you open the skylights to release that heat out. This is the skylight. If you're getting hot, you always take the hat off. First thing you do is it not unzip, take the hat off. It will release huge amounts of heat. If you start getting chilly, you put the hat back on, you close the skylight, keep the heat in. Hats are really critical. Now, this is just a lightweight summer, fall-wearing hat. You know, it's got sun protection on top, but it's all vented on the side. I have full hats. If it's going to be, and I always bring, like this is just a lightweight hat, but I will throw this in my bag in the summer. I don't care when it is. If I think I'm potentially going to be exposed to wet weather, think about thunderstorms that come through. Temperatures can drop 10, 15, 20 degrees when a storm comes through. It's amazing how cold it can get. Just a thin little skull cap like this can make all the difference in the world. Again, synthetic material dries quickly, but amazing how much heat retention value it has. If you're going to be in colder weather, then get, a wool hat with your little pom-pom for
And again, it's wool.
Fashion. And it's wool, but it will keep you dry, so you really want to make sure that you've got that. Gloves are key.
Okay.
Now, my wife will laugh at this. I must have 50 pairs of gloves. I'm talking, and these are finger gloves. I've got the Vulcan. What was this guy's? Spock's gloves. Those winter gloves. You want what we call lobster claw or full mittens. But you want to have gloves with you again because if your extremities are, as I say, if your extremities are happy, meaning they're warm and comfortable, the rest of your body is. Never will you say, "Oh my God, I'm so cold, but my hands are really comfortable."
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Where do you start losing heat? Feet, head, hands, because the body's trying to preserve heat to the core. So when it's starting to feel stress and it can't maintain the proper amount of heat because you're in really challenging conditions, you haven't eaten, that's a whole nother topic, it starts shutting down extremities. And it's conserving the blood and the heat to your vital core, your core areas. So it's really key that your feet are taken care of, your hands are taken care of, your head. So make sure you always have gloves with you. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to clothing is rain gear. Make sure you are going to be, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when are you going to be exposed to wet weather. Rain, snow, make sure you have this is Gore-Tex, lightweight, dries quickly. It's a wind barrier. It's a moisture barrier. But you've got to have some type of rain gear if you're going out for an extended period of time. Again, if you're walking at Stanley Park or you're going up to Ashley Reservoir, don't worry about this stuff. You know what the weather is. I'm going to be back in an hour. It's not a problem. But if you're going out on the trails, you need to be prepared. Again, what color is it? Not black, not deep blue, yellow. I want it to stand out. I want to be bright because you don't know who's out there. Right now it's bear season, it's archery season. They've got black powder. I mean, every season there's some type of hunting going on. You hear them out there. You want to be visible. Doesn't mean you can't go out, but you want to be really, really visible and stay on recognized trails so that hunters tend to stay away from those because they're concerned about hikers and stuff. So that's really, really key.
Okay, take a breath.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead.
One of my questions, Harry, is do you wear gloves in the summer as well? Do you wear light gloves or
no,
not? You don't?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Don't need to because you're going to be hot.
Okay. I just know that when I've done some hiking and I've been like grabbing onto, you know what I mean, like tree limbs and things like that.
Okay, so let me talk about that.
In some cases, just for the leverage.
What I would recommend, and I was thinking about that when I was driving down here, and I didn't bring an example of that. Fingerless gloves, like what you wear for cycling.
Yep.
Those are great for hiking. Especially if you're in challenging conditions where you are grabbing onto trees or rocks, it can save your hands. if I'm like when you climb Mount Washington, which I've done a lot of, that's called the boulder patch up there. It's just huge car-shaped sized boulders. It's sharp granite.
Yeah.
It really rips your fingers and your skin. You want to have gloves on for those kind of conditions. So again, just a lightweight pair of gloves, not cotton.
Right.
But a synthetic material.
Right. Just something to save your skin.
You know, it'll protect your skin, absolutely. And it, again, depends on what you're going to be doing for that. So, Carol, to go to your question of how do you carry all this stuff? So, if you are just doing a basic hike, all you need is a waist belt like this. So I brought one of many that I have. And what you'll see is this is actually Ann's. This is a double bottle carrier, and you see a lot of these now because you need to make sure that you've got liquids.
Yeah, you want to stay
because
hydrated.
you're going to be sweating out there.
Yeah.
So one little bottle, like I see people walking around with a little water bottle you buy at
Yeah.
the
like
grocery
this.
store.
Yeah,
Right.
like that.
No.
Yeah, that
That's
doesn't
not
work.
going to do it.
Yeah, that's not going to
You need large containers. You need double containers. Depending on the length of a trail, I would even carry more than this. Water, Gatorade. You need to always replenish fluids, and you need to replenish energy. So Gatorade is a huge. I use a lot of Gatorade kind of products. But this gives you the ability now to carry. It just goes around your waist. It has a very comfortable waist belt. It has a pouch here so that I can put in. We'll talk about first aid, maps, food,
Cell phone.
which probably won't work depending on where you are. So those are things that you really want to be thinking about. You always, always, always carry a whistle. If you get lost and you start yelling for help, my voice is already raspy.
Yeah.
From talking a lot, when you're yelling and screaming, your voice is going to wear out, and you cannot penetrate the sound of wind. A whistle penetrates everything, and you can always blow.
That's a great, I actually would not have thought of that.
Always.
Either.
Yeah.
So I have whistles. If you go into my basement, anybody need a pack? Come see me.
Someday we're gonna take
you wanna
this.
go.
We're gonna take this show on the road, and we're gonna do it from Harry's
We're
basement.
Harry's
We're just gonna do a tour.
I don't want to tell you what my basement is worth when you look at all the equipment I have. Every pack I have has a whistle on it.
Yeah.
I'm not moving them from pack to pack. I have them on everything
pack, yep.
because when I pick it up, I want to know it's already there. I'm not, oh my God, I forgot my whistle.
Yeah.
These are critical. This ensures your ability to help get someone's attention
Yes. Yeah.
or
Yep.
for them to find you or you to find them kind of thing.
Okay.
So make sure you always have a whistle. But these are really great. They're comfortable, and I really highly recommend it. But make sure that you're carrying plenty of fluid. The other thing that you can get into if you're going to be doing something more extensive, like day hiking, like climbing Mount
Washington,
Washington,
for several hours,
is a basic backpack. This is very lightweight, again, made out of synthetic material, dries quickly. It keeps it light. Now I can throw in extra stuff. I can throw in my raincoat. I can throw in my fleece. I can throw in hats. More food. Food is critical.
Yeah.
Food is critical. You got to keep your energy levels up. First aid equipment, whatever I need, I can throw into this. Comfortable shoulder straps. They also they strap across your chest to hold your straps together. They have a waist belt so that you take the weight of the pack off your shoulders and basically put it onto your waist, which is the stronger muscles. They have all kind of little pouches. Same thing on the one I just showed you. There's little pouches on the belt strap so that you can put power bars in there or your maps,
First
things
aid,
like that.
tissues,
First aid,
Band-Aids,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about other essentials that you need to.
Okay, take one breath.
All right.
I just want to do a station identification.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
go
blowing
ahead.
through the music, so we're not going to worry about that. But you are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. And if you're just joining me, I do want to reintroduce my guest this morning. Carol Palmer is the group exercise instructor at the Westfield Senior Center. Carol joins me on the first Wednesday of the month to talk about health and fitness. And our guest this morning is Harry Rock. Carol and I have been doing a series on outdoor activities, warm weather outdoor activities. And today the topic is hiking. So I know, Harry's you've really gone through all of the attire and the food and the weather conditions, which I think are, it's in a way, it's kind of like, well, yeah, of course, but you wouldn't always think of that. I never thought of the whistle.
I never.
I really never did. But oh my God, you're right. Why would you? I feel like I should have a whistle when I'm even out running. To be honest with you, well, seriously.
Yeah. Bring attention.
Yeah. Okay. So carry on. We're good.
One of the other things before I get into other stuff is hiking poles. Back when I first started, these didn't exist. People didn't think about it. You just hiked and you just used your feet. When the hiking poles came through, and they've been around for a while, and they're made out of aluminum, they're made out of carbon fiber, they're really lightweight. These are a game changer, and it's amazing how much they help with balance. You have the ability to easily adjust the length. They just have a little clip and allows you to extend the pole to whatever length you need. They need to be shorter when you're going uphill because you're leaning into the hill. They need to be a little bit longer when you're coming downhill because where you're pushing the pole in front of you is going to be downhill from where you are. You don't want to be leaning forward, so you need to extend the pole out. They're very easy.
The jury is out for me on these. I've tried them, and I feel like I just can't use them. I need to feel like my hands are free. I feel like I have better balance when I can kind of use my hands, and I feel like I can grip onto something if I need to. But my sister-in-law swears by them, and I've been hiking with her, and Marianne always has her poles. So I don't know, do you have to get used to them? I don't.
It's not that you have to get used. Well, you need to learn how to use them, but I mean, there's really not much to it.
Yeah.
What they do is they help with balance. Now, I'm going to talk to your point in just a second because that was a great point. I don't always use them.
Okay.
I may have them with me, but depending on how challenging, boulder-strewn it is, they aren't going to help me now. Now I need my hands to help me. I'm talking for basic trails, up and down kind of thing.
Okay.
It really helps push you along.
Okay.
It will help when you've got rises or big steps. It helps you to step up over things. Crossing streams, huge. Crossing streams, I can get one on one side and one on the other side. Now I can use that to help push me over or jump across a stream. I am a huge believer in these things. And again, depending on when I get to a certain point in the trail where, wow, this is really, really steep, these aren't going to do anything for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm basically sticking them down my pack.
Okay.
You have straps on the side of your pack, by the way, that will hold these.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Right.
I've seen that.
So that you're not carrying these in your hands. These go right on your pack. But when your trail is pretty much straightforward, these are just great to help propel. You will feel the difference in how much workload you're putting on your legs. You're less workload on the legs, and now you're using your arms, you're using your upper body to help propel yourself along.
Okay.
And it really does help with balance and just propulsion. So big believer in, and I never used them for a long time. But when I finally started using them, I said, wow.
Okay.
This really does help,
well,
especially going up really, really steep stuff where I can push. I can use them to help push myself up.
Yeah.
And again, it takes some of the stress off of the legs.
Well, I think when you're a mature hiker, that those are probably a really good idea when it comes to balance.
Yeah. Yep.
It's huge for people that do have balance issues and stuff.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about what you need to also bring with you. Now, again, we're talking about easy, moderate, challenging kind of hiking.
Yes.
How long are you going to be out there? If I'm saying, okay, we're going to summit Mount Greylock or we're going to summit Mount Washington in a day, in the fall, days are getting shorter. I have less daylight. So I've got to be concerned with the fact that if I'm only going out for an hour, I don't worry about it. I'm going to be back in an hour. It's plenty of daylight.
Right, yeah.
But if I'm going to be out for an extended period of time, I do have to concern myself with, what if I get stuck? What if we've slowed up? I've gotten a blister. Someone else in my party has fallen and now they're limping along.
Yep.
We're not making the kind of time. We're not going to get out before daylight.
Yes.
We're not getting out before daylight.
Yeah, that's big.
That's an issue because you're going to lose the trail. You can't see the trail. So you need to make sure that you have headlamps and some type of lighting with you. Make sure that it's the type that has some type of, it keeps the switch from automatically switching on. Yep. So that when it's in your pack, it switches itself on because it gets joggled around and your batteries run out.
Yep.
I always carry, in extended kind of hikes, I'll have a couple of these. The headlamps are phenomenal because it just fits on over your head. Now the beam is going wherever your head is turning,
Now,
and
have
you
you
can
used
see.
the ones on your waist? Have you ever tried those?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
They're I know something that. Well, when we did Mass Dash, which was a dash from across, you're running across the state and you run through the night.
Oh,
and everything.
okay.
They used headlamps, but but some of the runners said they were uncomfortable with running for that period of time, and so I talked to my niece who is a runner, and a couple of years ago I got Gary and me their waist ones. So the lamp is actually it's kind of like that, and then the lamp and it fits onto the waist.
Okay.
So I really mostly got it for walking, just because I don't really run at night or really that early, even when it's dark. But with walking, I'm just more afraid of animals.
So what you've got,
I don't know if
they're more afraid of you than you are of them, I think.
Probably, but still.
But if you're, the waist thing immediately, my thought was, okay, is there a way for it to attach to this?
To that, yeah. And some of them you can.
But the issue that I would, not an issue, the caution I would have is that it's only shining in the direction that your waist is facing. You hear something, you got to look.
Oh, I see. But
you want the light.
Yeah, because I was
going to
say
head.
these you can move them. Like they rotate all over the place. But I see what you're saying.
You want them on your head.
Yeah, gotcha.
You want to be able to look
All right,
around, look
okay.
up. You want to be able to look at your map.
Okay.
The
so
headlamp.
for hiking, we'll go with the headlamp.
Yeah,
All right.
the headlamp is the way I would go with that. I didn't bring you topographical maps, but you need to have topographical maps. Again, depending on where you are. If it's a straightforward trail and it's a loop trail, not a problem. They've got maps at the trailhead. If you're going out somewhere more extended for a real long day hike and you're on the Appalachian or doing Mount Greylock or some other peak, you need to have topographical maps that show you the gradient, the elevation drops and gains, where the trails are going, where are other side trails coming in or leaving so you don't take the wrong ones. You need to learn how to read a topographical map. So when you're looking at the lines, what does it mean when the lines are all going down? What's it mean when the lines are going up, forming upstream V's or downstream V's? Those are hills or...
I agree. And I think that,
a
map is only as good as the ability of the person to read a map.
So I used to sit back in the day when I was really getting started with this, I would sit on top of a peak and now I can look out. And I'm now looking at the map and I am now visualizing as I'm looking at that peak, I'm looking at it on the map. Okay, that's what those lines mean. Or a little, like a camel hump. Okay, that's what those lines mean. You need to learn how to read them. You also make sure that you've got a compass. You need to know what direction am I going, and you can align the map with your compass so that you can see exactly, okay, my head is south, north. Again, getting lost, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I've had times when I will say I was confused, very much confused. You can buy books. So this is the Guide to the Appalachian Trail. If you go into EMS or any bookstore, there are all kinds of hiking. People have written hundreds of books on these things. Great descriptions of the trails. I have used these, and inside they've got maps topographical maps that come with them. And they've got, they show you the streams, ponds, lakes, roadways, all that kind of stuff. But you need to know where you're going. So, make sure that you've got your maps and some kind of trail description of where you're going.
Right. I just want to pause there for a second because I think that that's really important. Because for me, I think a lot of this has to do with planning. having just come back from Acadia National Park, because I'm up there every year because my brother lives there. I'm lucky to have him in residence. But, what we would always do when we were going to do a hike is get out one of the books, and I mean, any of the national parks have their books, and they rate them. It's like, just as you said, it was easy, moderate, challenging, really, and they'll tell you why. They'll tell you, whether it's a loop, whether it's an out and back, how many miles, how steep, the whole thing. And that has really helped us, because when we've done hiking, especially if we have children with us, and here's my thing, like, please, when you hike, do not take your animal with you. We have seen people hiking in Acadia with carrying dogs wearing flip-flops on a trail that's kind of like a moderate type of trail. Like, that is a recipe for disaster. And the same thing with children. If you're going to take children, know what they can handle and what they can't. Even if they're pretty athletic, 10, 12 years old. My niece has a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And Karen said, we always start with easy peasy, and then let's see what the boys can handle. And if they can handle a little bit more, then, the next day or, the day after that, we'll try one that's a little bit tougher. But I think doing your homework, and now there's no excuse. With the internet, you've got trail books, you've got all of these things. So do your homework ahead of time.
Right. Just the last couple of things very quickly before we shut down. Things that you need to make sure you bring: toilet paper.
Yeah.
Again, not a question of if, it's just a question of when the need will come. Make sure it's in a Ziploc so it doesn't get wet, but you want to make sure that this is a creature comfort that you will be happy you always had with you. Make sure that you've got food, energy bars, drinks, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, all kind of food you can take with you. The prevention of blisters. This is what's called moleskin, and it's a product you can buy in any you can get them in a pharmacy. Get them at Big Y, Stop and Shop. Big Y, bunion cushions. But you cut these things up if you feel like you're getting a hot spot. Don't wait till you get if you get the blister, you're in trouble. When you feel a hot spot, you feel something burning, you feel something rubbing, you stop. I don't care what the group is, you stop. And if you're a group leader, you always say, all of you out there, if you need to have something put on a hot spot, we stop right then. You cut this in the shape of the hot spot, you put it over it, and now the cause of irritation is rubbing on this and not on your skin. Band-Aids, basic first aid, abrasions, gauze pads, things of that nature you need to make
Insect repellent.
Insect repellent, yep. That's it.
All right. I want to just mention, just to wrap this up, there is an organization called the Pioneer Valley Hiking Club. Yeah. They meet on the first Tuesday at the First Baptist Church Hall, which is right next to West Springfield High School. This club I know one of the members, and he has been in this club for the 30 years that I've known him. They've been around forever. So if you would like some information on that, I have this. That's probably the easiest thing to do. And I can actually post this on the bulletin board at the Senior Center. I'll enlarge it. But it's called the Pioneer Valley Hiking Club, or you can go online and just Google Pioneer Valley Hiking Club in Massachusetts.
And the other group that we have right here in Western Mass, and we've had them on my show and on Kathy Palmer's show, the Hilltown Hikers.
Okay.
And they cover they are phenomenal. They're covering all the hiking areas in the hill towns just to the west of us.
So that's
And they are great. They're guided hikes. They're fairly easy to moderate hikes. And
that's a great way to get started.
Right.
And the name of it again, Harry?
Hilltown Hikers.
Hilltown Hikers.
Just look up Hilltown Hikers.
Hilltown Hikers and just put Massachusetts and it'll get you that website.
Yep.
I want to thank Carol and Harry, as always. Harry comes with 1,000 props, and but you know what? A picture says 1,000 words. So thank you for that. And Carol, as always, thank you so much. Please remember that the newsletter is out for the Senior Center. We have a lot of stuff happening in September. We're doing signups for vaccination for flu and COVID vaccines. So all kinds of stuff, all in the newsletter. Thank you to Harry and Carol. We will be back next week. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. Have a great week.
Expert